I am about to spend 100 days building a farm on one life with no tools and a hill the size of this in my way. And if I die even once, the entire farm is gone forever. 100 days, one farm, hardcore mode, let's go! You start with the ground. That is always how it begins. The ground and the shape you are carrying somewhere inside you that you cannot yet see clearly, and the strange, necessary faith that the two of them will find each other. I arrived in this world with nothing, a pair of hands, a sense of direction I had not yet earned, and the beginning of a plan. Some sheep were grazing nearby. They did not look up. Someone had built that village long before I arrived, had planted those crops, stocked those chests, laid those paths between the houses. In a world, you take what is useful and keep moving. The hay became bread. 63 loaves of it. The cliff beside the village was made of everything I needed next. I went into it with a wooden pickaxe and came out with cobblestone and coal and making of better tools. The second day I learned something I would need to remember for a long time afterwards. Do not spend what you cannot replace. The stone pickaxe stayed in my pocket. The wooden one did a curl. Below the surface, the world is a different kind of silence. The ravine went down a long way. The walls of it were threaded with iron ore, the way an old letter is threaded with meaning you only find on the second reading. I had torches, I had time, I went in. I surfaced into the daylight and found sugarcane growing along the bank of a stream. I took it. You take what the land offers. That is the first law of a place like this. The horse was not immediately convinced that I was worth the trouble. It threw me several times. I could not, in all honesty, find it in me to hold back against the animal. I was looking for a particular kind of land, something wide, with room enough for what I had in mind. The world had more to show me than I expected. It kept offering me things that were almost right. A field too small, a slope too steep, a place you could farm, perhaps, but not the way I was imagining. I picked up a pumpkin, growing wild, at the side of a hill. Seeds for later. You collect things on a journey without always knowing why. Sometimes the journey explains it afterwards. And then the land, wide open, with the quality of a place that has been waiting to become something. I recognized it the way you recognize a face you have not met but somehow already know. There was a hill. In another life I would have moved on and found somewhere else. I built a shovel and turned to face it. hill is just a hill until you decide to remove it. Then it becomes 100 decisions and 1,000 blocks and a particular kind of stubbornness required to keep going when the end of the thing is not yet visible. The farm I had imagined was bigger than the space the hill had been occupying, so I kept going. There's a strange freedom in work that only asks you to continue it. You do not have to decide anything, you do not have to choose. The task is clear, the direction is clear. A chicken nearby had been leaving eggs. I had not been paying attention to it. "16 of them. Over those days, I cooked them. You take what the land gives. I laid out the shape of a house in oak logs on the ground. Just a frame, just a shape, but it was the first thing in this world with a fixed address. I built it quickly at first. Function before beauty. That is always the bargain at the start of something. The house went up without much elegance, and I did not mind. There would be time for elegance. Whilst the stone was melting, I went outside and started cutting leaves off the trees. In the right light, leaf bogs makes perfect hedges. No one tells you this. You discover it alone, and it quietly changes what you think a place can be. The first field was wheat. I measured the space, dug the channels at the right intervals, built the hedges, hung lanterns from oak posts so it stayed lit through the night, laid slabs across the hedge tops so nothing that meant harm could get in. There's a particular kind of care that goes into building something you will then leave alone to grow. You want it right because you will not be there watching every moment. The field has to be able to look after itself. When I stood back and looked at the finished field, the rows already beginning to green, the lanterns burning in the early dusk, the hedges holding everything in, I did not feel what I had expected. It was quieter than pride, the feeling of having made something that was, for the first time, exactly what I had meant to make. Whilst the wheat grew, I started the onions. This is the part of farming that no photograph ever shows you. Nothing finished, everything in progress. The days accumulating quietly underneath everything else you are doing. You learn to hold several things in your mind at once, none of them complete, and you keep moving. That is what farming is. That is, perhaps, what most things are. The beet field. I had one seed. Every row you will see in that field came from that single seed. I planted it, waited, harvested it, separated the seeds from the yield, planted those, waited again. The beet field took longer than any other field I built. It is the same size as the wheat field. Patience is not a single sustained effort. It is the decision made again and again and again to go back to the thing that is not yet finished, made again tomorrow and the day after. At some point during all this, I noticed I had completely forgotten about my roof. The flat oak planks that were only ever meant to be a floor for the second story were still there, still temporary, whilst I had been outside tending the fields. I have since come to understand that this is entirely characteristic of me. The roof took longer than it should have, because I changed my mind twice about the shape of it. First all stone brick, then oak and stone brick together. The pyramid I had imagined kept refusing to look like the pyramid in my head, until suddenly it did. Crops grow on their own schedule. You can give them water, light and good soil, and they will still take exactly as long as they mean to take. There is no arguing with them about it. I found this eventually to be a comfort rather than a frustration. Some things cannot be hurried. Once you accept that, they stop feeling slow. I kept a composter, fed it everything that could not be used directly, and turned it into bone meal to help things along. It helps, it always helps, but it does not change what the work fundamentally is. Nothing does. Pumpkins do not grow the way most things grow. They emerge from beside the plant onto the ground adjacent to it. You have to leave room. I had not left room. There's a very particular feeling that comes from discovering a mistake that was entirely avoidable, and a very particular satisfaction in correcting it and carrying on. When the first pumpkin appeared there, besides its stem, as if it had always meant to be there, and was only now getting round to it, I stood and looked at it. A very good pumpkin. Potato field went faster, more compost, more bone meal, more of everything the earlier work had produced. The farm was beginning to sustain itself, each field making the next one easier, one thing feeding into the next. That is how patience pays out, not all at once, in compound interest. Then the carrots, the same process, the same precision. My hands knew the work before I had finished thinking about it. That is what 60 days of practice feels like from the inside. I want you to look at this for a moment. Not because I built it, but because it was not here before, and now it is. The ground does not do this by itself. It needs someone willing to come back to it every day for a long time without knowing how it will turn out. I came back to it. There was land behind the house. There had always been land behind the house. I headed the back door. 6 more fields. I'm aware that this was not the most sensible decision I have ever made. I had plans for 6 fields, 6 different things. I wrote the whole list out in my head on the long ride back from clearing that ground, and it felt entirely achievable. It is worth nothing for the record that I did not finish 6 fields. The sugarcane went first. Sugarcane needs water right beside it, not at a distance, right there, immediately adjacent, every other block. The field that results looks like nothing else I built. Long alternating stripes of green and water, running back as far as you can see. I rather liked the look of it. Then came the waiting. Because sugarcane has no interest in bone meal. It does not respond to encouragement or attention or the specific kind of anxiety that comes from checking on something too often. It grows in its own time, by its own rules, and there is nothing you can say or do to change that. I checked on it rather too often anyway. That is simply the sort of person I am. By the time the last cane had reached its full height, I had made my peace with it. The tomato plants outside my front door had been living there since the early days, a temporary arrangement that had lasted rather longer than was strictly decent. I had walked past them every morning and not dealt with it, in the way that you walk past things that are working well enough and tell yourself you will sort it out properly later. Later arrived. I broke every plant down, one by one, and moved the whole lot to their own field at the back. Tomatoes are the most generous crop I grew. You do not have to break the plant to take the fruit. It's simply a piece and you take it, and the plant carries on without complaint. From the fruit you press seeds, from seeds more plants, a thing that gives without ever asking to be replaced. The tomato field filled faster than any other field I built. It seemed somehow pleased to finally have somewhere proper to be. The melons had to go in carefully. Melons grow the same way pumpkins do, not from the plant itself, but outward from it, onto the adjacent ground. I had discovered this the harder way in the pumpkin field, weeks before, and had replanted an entire layout as a result. This time I planned for it, from the first seed, correct spacing, no rebuilding. When the first melon appeared beside its stem, I stood and looked at it for a moment, not as long as the first pumpkin, but I looked. That's it, I think, what experience actually is. Not that the things stop affecting you, just that you have a little more room for them. 3 fields. sugarcane, tomatoes, melons. That is what the back 40 gave me in the time I had. Not sweet berries, not bamboo, not cocoa or any other things I had been planning on the long ride back from clearing that ground. 3 fields finished, 3 still empty. The list I had written in my head only half completed. And I have spent some time thinking about what to make of that. You cannot finish everything you plan. I think, if I'm honest, I knew that from the beginning. The farm was always going to be larger than the 100 days. It was designed to be. You do not plant a field you expect to harvest tomorrow. You plant a field because you intend to come back to it. Those 3 fields are still waiting. I know what I would plant in them. Roughly. I have thought about it. If you would like to find out what goes in those fields and what comes after them, get this video to 1,000 likes. I know, 1,000 likes on a channel that does well to see 50. But here is the thing. I spent 100 days removing a hill 1 block at a time and growing an entire farm from a single beet seed on the strength of nothing more than the belief that carrying on was worth the effort. I have spent the last 30-ish minutes asking you to trust that patience pays out. So I am asking you to do your part. Click the button, come back in a few weeks, be patient. The fields are ready, they just need a little more time. After all, patience is the whole point.